Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited the site of a recent missile strike in the southern city of Arad in Israel. He asked world leaders to support the joint military campaign by Israel and the US against Iran. Netanyahu said Iran recently tried to hit a military base at Diego Garcia, showing it now has missiles that can travel much farther than before, even deep into Europe. He also accused Iran of threatening global trade by trying to block the Strait of Hormuz, which is very important for oil transport for the whole world. Netanyahu said some countries may now be ready to support the US-Israel campaign against Iran, but more help is needed. He also mentioned that US President Donald Trump has raised concerns about limited international support. He strongly criticized Iran for firing missiles near holy places in Jerusalem, including the Western Wall, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. He said luckily none of these sites were damaged.
If you want proof that Iran endangers the entire world, the last 48 hours have given it. In the last 48 hours, Iran targeted a civilian area. They're doing that as a mass murder weapon. Luckily, no one was killed, but that's due to luck, not their intention. Their intention is to murder civilians. Second, they fired on Jerusalem right next to the holy sites of the three monotheistic faiths, the Western Wall, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And by dint of a miracle, again, none of them were hurt, but they were targeting the holy sites of the three major monotheistic religions. Third, they fired an intercontinental ballistic missile on Diego Garcia. That's 4,000 kilometers. I've been warning all the time. They have now the capacity to reach deep into Europe. They already have fired on a European country, Cyprus. They are putting everyone in their sights. And fourth, they're stopping a maritime international route, energy route, and trying to blackmail the entire world. What more proof do you need that this regime that threatens the entire world has to be stopped? Israel and the United States are working together for the entire world. And it's time to see the leaders of the rest of the countries join up. I'm happy to say that I can see some of them beginning to move in that direction, but more is needed. President Trump's call to have the international community confront this terrorist fanatic regime of zealots, that is a call not only for the security of America and the security of Israel, it's for the security of the entire world. And it's time for them to act.
Now the war is entering a far more dangerous phase with missile capability taking center stage. The Israel Defense Forces, or IDF, has made a big claim saying that Iran now has tested a long-range missile with a reach of nearly 4,000 kilometers. A range that potentially brings large parts of Europe, Asia and Africa within striking distance. Meanwhile, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi and EU's Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas held a telephone conversation to discuss the latest developments in the region. This comes even as Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu made it clear that Israel will continue to strike its enemies across all fronts, signaling no de-escalation anytime soon. On the other side, Iran's messaging has turned sharply aggressive, with its Hyderabad consulate warning that failure to intercept missiles over Dimona could mark a turning point, even declaring the Israeli strikes could become defenseless. So the big question is this: is this psychological warfare or a real global threat taking shape? Israel is clearly pushing a narrative of escalation, projecting Iran not just as a regional adversary but as a global threat. The Israeli military says it has long warned about Iran's missile ambitions and now claims those warnings are becoming a reality. Iran is not backing down. Instead, its messaging is sharper and clearer, aimed at deterrence. The warning coming from its diplomatic post in India hints at a possible escalation trigger tied to Israel's missile defense performance. Even as the military narrative intensifies, Israel's political leadership is leaving no room for ambiguity. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is framing this conflict as existential positioning. And it's not just as a security operation, but as a battle for Israel's future. His messaging is calibrated to signal resolve, both domestically and internationally, making it clear that Israel is prepared for a prolonged multi-front engagement. What stands out is the combination of emotional outreach and strategic intent, acknowledging casualties while simultaneously reinforcing that operations will not slow down. This is not crisis management and that kind of messaging. This is wartime signaling that escalation, if required, is already built into the playbook. What we are witnessing is a decisive broadening of the conflict framework. This is no longer just about immediate retaliation cycles between Israel and Iran, but about capability projection and deterrence signaling at a global level. A 4,000-kilometer missile range fundamentally alters threat perception, bringing multiple continents into strategic calculations and forcing governments far beyond West Asia to reassess their security postures. At the same time, the rhetoric from both sides is no longer calibrated for de-escalation. It is designed to shape narratives, build pressure, and test red lines. Israel is internationalizing the threat, while Iran is attempting to challenge the credibility of Israeli defense systems. This dual-track escalation, military and psychological, increases the risk of miscalculation, where perception could trigger action. We have Major General Rajan, Coch, defense expert and strategy expert, now joining us on the broadcast live. Major General Rajan Coch, talk to us at a fundamental level. How big a threat is Iran possessing a 4,000-kilometer range missile?
Thank you for inviting me. See, it's the sovereign right of every country to develop a technology which can deter its adversary. So, from that context, if we look at this type of intermediate range ballistic missile which can go up to 4,000 kilometers, the envelope it actually covers is fairly large because Diego Garcia actually comes into the picture now. Cyprus comes into the picture. Romania also, the bases, air bases, American air bases in Romania also come into the picture. So it is also the Indian Ocean region also gets affected. Entire Europe comes under the envelope. So once you see this threat analysis, Iran has done a strategic signaling because sending two missiles was a part of it. It was not meant to cause great damage in Diego Garcia because two missiles can be intercepted if probably a salvo of 8 to 10 missiles were you fired. I could actually consider that as a dangerous kind of an attack. But what remains to be seen is that from where the stated capability has come, because Iran has known to cap its missile program around 2,200 kilometers, and that was Israel centric. But now we are seeing that China has been instrumental in positioning a technology in Iran, which may be able to reach USA in times to come, because graduating from IRBM to ICBM, uh, a, a continental ballistic missile, will not take time. As per experts, so what I was reading is it take at the most 2 to 3 years for Iran to graduate to a intercontinental ballistic missile prowess. So basically, what we have seen in the last 8 months, China has made huge shipments of sodium percolate. This is a chemical which is a solid fuel ingredient which can produce hundreds of missiles. China has also been sending to Iran dual-use components which relate to aerospace components and electronics which can be used in the manufacture of missiles. So it's very, very clear that China has played a very important role in the missile development program of Iran. So what do we see from here is we see from here in terms of a threat perception that Iran will be capable now because the way manufacturing takes place in Iran and most of their facilities are underground and so far intact. So this war is not going to make a huge dent into the manufacturing capabilities of Iran as far as missiles are concerned, contrary to what President Trump and Pete Hegseth has been saying, because it's very, very apparent that in case Iran possesses a capability today to even strike after 23 days of war, it's very, very clear that a large portion of the missile capability of Iran is still intact.
The question also here at this stage is that these are claims by the Israeli Defense Forces. It's a massive claim over there. My question here is that, would you doubt those claims at this stage? Because this claim only adds to their own posturing to the world, asking the world powers to join their campaign.
So we need to understand that Iran does not treat Europe as its enemy. So I think what IDF is trying to paint a picture as Iran as a rogue state, trying to suggest that Iran is a threat to the entire Europe. So I don't think that would be a correct perspective to be brought about here because basically Iran treats Israel as its adversary. It has never had any intention either to attack the United States. And if you remember, these false narratives were being made at the start of the war when the preemptive was used, that the United States has carried out a preemptive strike on Iran, considering that Iran was going to strike the United States. And I think this narrative has been exposed. So from that point of view, I think the claims of IDF have to be treated with a pinch of salt because I don't think Iran has any intention to strike Europe.
I also wanted to ask you about the fact that, Iran's messaging, which has turned aggressive at this stage, it is talking about the fact that Israeli skies could become defenseless after intercepting missiles over Dimona. How much weight would you give to that claim?
I think that's a very, very significant statement because see, what is happening today, it is drones versus counter drones, missiles versus interceptors. So what we are seeing is that the way when a missile is fired, a minimum of 2 interceptors are required to intercept that missile. So we are seeing the interceptor capability of the Israelis are going down by the day. If you remember in the 12 days war, Israelis were short of interceptors and they had to call for a ceasefire. A similar kind of situation is also emerging in Israel now. When there is a shortage of interceptors, there was a German report also which I read was suggesting that both the US and Israel may not be able to sustain this war beyond another 15 days from now. And whereas Iran has the capability to continue firing those missiles, even if they may be having about 1,000 in their kitty as of now, they would be sufficient to cause maximum devastation in Israel. So I take this claim of Iran, very, very seriously.
Fair enough. We leave it at that. Major General Rajan, Coch, defense and strategy expert. Thank you so much for taking time out to be this here on News 9.